Welcome to the Heron Outlet with a very special guest, Kaylor Hodges of the Hammering Down Pod, also of the USL show, going to join us to preview the upcoming USL or US Open Cup quarterfinal matchup between Inter Miami and the Birmingham Legion. Kaylor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I was pretty excited when you said you wanted to have a chat, so couldn't be more excited to be here, man.
Yeah, this is a big one going down in Alabama later on this week, the quarterfinals. The Legion, one of two remaining USL teams, Inter Miami, the furthest they've ever made it in this competition. What is the buzz going on around Birmingham right now as we get ready for this matchup?
We are recording this on Monday, June the 5th, and frankly, from everybody I've talked to and myself, are already nervous. They're already anxious. Like people, when I wrote about it, I dubbed this as the biggest day in Birmingham soccer history. And that's including we hosted the 96 Olympics. I think this is bigger than that because we have two of Birmingham's clubs playing. I mean, our WFC team is playing against the defending USL champion in South Georgia Tormenta in their first ever home game. And now Legion are playing against Inter Miami, who it's the second time we played an MLS team in real competition against players that a lot of fans are fans of, like Joseph Martinez. I mean, there's a lot of Atlanta United fans around. People know David Beckham, DeAndre Yedlin. They know those names, right? On top of that, I mean, we got 13,000 people at the last game against Charlotte on the same night as most high school graduations and the SEC baseball championships with Alabama and Auburn playing on the same night, less than 20 minutes away. And that team did not have David Beckham as pulling power. And so a lot of us are just buzzing, just knowing that what this has the potential to be, and not just for this game, but really for the trajectory of this club.
When the draw was announced, you saw that you were slot A1. The Legion would be A1, which means that they would host the first game and the second game if they could get past their opponent. That was in a pod with Charlotte, who you got past 1-0. Inter Miami and Nashville. When that draw happened, what was the reaction to saying, wait a minute, we're going to host possibly not one, but now two MLS clubs?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the best case scenario. I think a lot of people were kind of wanting Nashville, not just because it would have been the local, more localish team, bigger crowd. Also, there were a lot of fans who wanted to do the Tennessee quadruple because we had beaten both Chattanooga teams and Memphis. So there were some people that wanted to just take down Nashville along with them. But, admittedly, a lot of people were like, wait a minute, Charlotte might be the easiest team to beat here. And we were like, there's a good chance we get by this. And, if we win, everybody was thinking, well, we'll just play Nashville next week anyway. And then obviously Inter Miami had other plans, which honestly made it more exciting because, I mean, there is so much star power that comes with Inter Miami. And I think Legion fans, after they started seeing the names involved, including a little rumor about some Argentinian that came out not too long ago, I think it really started getting Legion fans super excited.
Well, won't be for this matchup, but rumor mill continues on that. Inter Miami is going through its own spell right now,
Yep.
releasing head coach Phil Neville last week. But Birmingham Legion, in terms of league play, have had their own little run. They've lost 5 straight. The only wins that they've had in that run have been the 2 U.S. Open Cup games, beating Memphis and now Charlotte. What's been the difference in Open Cup play as opposed to league play for you guys?
I mean, I hate this is something that's going to resonate with Inter Miami fans, I think. But I hate to be so simplistic and say that in that stretch of games, Legion had played almost 800 minutes in 18 days. Um, it's a lot of
Yeah, know
minutes.
the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, and I talked to Coach Sohn, and I asked him, I was like, "You guys went from that stretch to now having 11 days off. What's the difference in training?" And he straight up said the fact that we've had training, because it's been game recovery on the road, game on recovery on the road. They haven't trained, and so this is 11 days to train. Another thing about it is just the way that Legion play. They are a very counterattacking team, who they struggle when they are allowed to control possession. That they are built with speed. They are built with very technical players that can break down defenses very quickly. But when they have to do slow, methodical buildup, it doesn't work. Well, when you're facing MLS teams, especially ones that are struggling in the league, it's not just a better talent thing. It's a bit of an ego thing. Imagine you're Charlotte or Inter Miami, and you're going out against Legion, a Division II team, and you only have 30% of the ball. Your fans are going to be up in arms. There's an ego thing there, and so the MLS teams are allowing Legion to play exactly into what Legion wants to do, and it's sit back, stay compact, and break whenever they see an opportunity.
Inter Miami has played better this year when they've done that as well. In the games that they've
Mhm.
had 60% plus possession, they haven't performed as well and often have found it very difficult to score. Head coach of Birmingham Legion, Tommy Sohn, comes from that tree of Bob Bradley, Peter Novak, and the likes that we know throughout American soccer, roots, really strong roots. How do you see him looking at this game differently, knowing that it's not necessarily a system that you can prepare for? Javi Morales has only had one game in charge of Inter Miami, decided to go with one striker instead of two, and might give a different look than what Phil Neville gave for most of the season.
Well, I think for Tommy Sohn, who, if people don't know his story in the Cup, if I remember right, as a player, as an assistant, and as a head coach, he has a combined 7 U.S. Open Cup wins. Like, he is a champion of the U.S. Open Cup 7 times. He knows the competition in and out. I think he's going to rely on Captain Fanuel Kavita here. I talked to Fanuel Kavita after the press conference, and Javi was a guy that he mentioned straight up because he was at Real Salt Lake with him. He knows him very well. That's a guy that he said he was very excited to go against and compete against. And now Javi's going to be relying on what he knows. And luckily for Legion, the captain of the club knows that very well as well. So I think unfortunately for Miami, they might have come across the wrong person in this situation, with it not just being a player, but being the club captain who knows the system that he might go with.
And anchoring a very strong defense, a very big defense that Birmingham has. I would say the counter to that is that Birmingham has a former Inter Miami player in Juan Aguadelo, who
Yep.
fans will remember very well from his year here in 2020. Well, how has he been playing for Birmingham? It's nice to see him back, playing against Inter Miami. He had a nice run here in their inaugural season. So when that name was definitely on the books, people got a little bit excited. How's his run with Birmingham been?
Juan is a guy that I don't want to sound elitist when I say this, right? But if you're a guy who looks on the box score, you think he's a horrible player, right? Because you bring in this talisman who's played for the U.S. men's national team, youngest U.S. men's national team goal scorer, and the pedigree that comes with being an MLS and going abroad, right? If you watch his game, he this year he wasn't brought in to be a goal scorer. That's not his job. His job is to be a goal scoring threat for sure. But he is perfect for holding up the play. He is a guy that gets the ball at his feet, tries to, do some dribbling. And unlike before, where, in MLS, you would see him try to dribble out of trouble, he dribbles himself into a situation and releases and to an ongoing runner. I think that Tommy Stone's built a wonderful system around Juan Agudelo that allows him to play more as a central attacking midfielder than a striker. And he's been playing the wing. It's been very interesting. That said, he still knows how to score goals. He scored in our previous 2 matchups in the U.S. Open Cup with Memphis and Charlotte, Chattanooga Red Wolves. And he's scored a few in the league now. He's still a threat, but not the same one that you might remember when he was a young 17-year-old in New York.
Right, right. And what we had seen down here was that he was almost a little bit better when he could get into wide spaces, almost playing as a winger instead of that sole out and out striker, or as a second striker that he played at times. He liked to find those open spaces out wide, and that was often when he was most effective.
Yep.
And so I guess in terms of, MLS is very unique in that there's different kinds of pitches. We talk of the extreme of New York, we talk the extreme of Atlanta and Seattle with the turf. Protective Stadium, the home of UAB, will be where it is. You mentioned 13,000 for the last game. It is a modified football stadium for UAB normally. What is the atmosphere like there? What's the crowd going to be like come Wednesday night?
I if it stays similar to what it was Charlotte, which I think it'll be a bigger crowd personally, because there is no tournament going on. There is no graduation happening that same night in town. Everything tells me that's going to be a bigger crowd. But I it's hard to really explain what it is, because it's a new set of soccer fans, but I it's some of the most intelligent soccer fans I've also been around. These are typically smaller drawing games, relatively speaking, of course, averaging, 6 to 8,000 fans a game. And those core of fans, and you have to be kind of a sicko to be going to a second division soccer game, right? And so they're very much into it. And when you bring in these new fans, the ones that don't know the game as well, they're going to be looking at the ones who do know, and it becomes very intelligent. And the loud moments are loud. They are. I don't say this lightly. I was in the $1 Million Band at Alabama for 4 years. I have seen the biggest stadiums in the U.S. I've been to A&M. I've been to, obviously, Alabama. I've been to Jordan-Hare. I've been to Gainesville. I've done the whole gauntlet. When Legion scored the goal against Charlotte, that is the loudest stadium I've ever heard.
Wow.
13,000 people. I know, I get it. And there's going to be some people saying, no, 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 that's not possible. I I promise you, I've never experienced anything like it. And there is real raw passion there. They are very intelligent. They get loud when it's supposed to be loud. The songs are sang, and it's a good time. But when the big moment happens, it's incredible.
Culturally, there might be a little bit of a difference between Miami and Alabama. For fans from La Familia who are heading out to Birmingham for the very first time, what's it like over there? What's some of the good places to eat, to grab a drink? Where should fans head to? Yeah.
So funny enough, and if you have obviously a very culturally Hispanic area right in Miami, we have our own like Hispanic supporters section that's very loud, and they're going to be, if I remember right, where they put them, it's going to be right near where the Miami fans are going to be sitting. So, there is going to be that little thing of a small bit of comfortability, but also maybe a little bit of different banter than maybe Miami fans normally get, because there aren't many other cities around that are as culturally Hispanic as Miami, and that you're going to be getting a lot of similarities there. There's going to be places across the street from the stadium that if you want to go get, there's a pretty good coffee shop called Santos that's across the street. I like a lot. They have a basil lavender latte, which is different, but I like a lot. There's a Brazilian steakhouse across the street, but and this is, everybody has their own opinion on barbecue. It's a dime a dozen. I don't think you can go to Birmingham without going to Saw's barbecue. I think that is the place to go. You have to go. And if you're staying for a couple of days, I highly recommend checking out the bar scene. It's a good craft area. There's Ghost Train, there's Good People, there's Trim Tab. There's a lot of great bars around that have really great food along with it, and it's easy to get stuck in and just lost in the city of Birmingham. If like Good People Brewing, it's across the street from the Birmingham Barons, which is one of the newer ballparks in the U.S., which is also attached to the Southern League Negro Hall of Fame Museum. And so if you want to get into that kind of history of civil rights history and stuff like that, Birmingham is littered with it. So if you want to get a little bit more enriched that way, it's all there for you.
Awesome. Well, it's going to be a very exciting night. Always is in the Open Cup. This one, I think, one of the highlights of the quarterfinals, this matchup between Birmingham Legion and Inter Miami. Kaylor Hodges of the Hammering Down podcast and the USL show. Kaylor, where can they find you on Twitter and all your socials?
You can find me on Twitter at Kaylor Hodges, same as my name. It's like Taylor with a K. And I mean, yeah, the USL show at the USL show. That's there. I'm gonna try to be posting more on Instagram, which I don't even, I think it's Hammering Down Pod. That's where I post. I'm down on the field shooting videos of all the goals, so every goal scored will be uploaded there. So if you want to see a behind the goal view of all the goals and whatnot, that'll be where it is.
Awesome. Kaylor, thank you so much. Enjoy the game on Wednesday, and we'll see you. Best of luck, but not too much luck. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something like that. Thanks, man.